Welcome back, everyone. My name is Casual. I am joined, of course, by 6KJ. We are here for Game 2. Game 2, 6K, this best of 3 series versus Cavalry and Stormwolves. And I mean, it was a really interesting game, wasn't it, that game one? Plenty to talk about, plenty to see. I think very much an upset for people who are interested in sort of their predicting style of things. I certainly am. I have no shame, 6K, in saying I really thought Stormwolves were just going to clean house here and take out the 2-0. But Cavalry really pleasantly surprising me with a really, really strong one-game performance. As we jump in straight into draft, it's a case of, do we switch things up or do we just stick with what worked? Because clearly something was working for them, and I don't know what that secret sauce was, but if they can bring that into Game 2, we're going to be looking at a really, really strong Cavalry side, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. Game one, I'm still a bit upset. I think the Maokai was a lot of that secret sauce for the Cavalry.
Yeah, big
Just
time.
such a good job. Munro, probably my MVP for that game. Did so much, set up everything. But this time it means that you get the Sedrani. So, similar champ, we'll have to see. Other than that, every ban is the same as last game. So no bans on the Malzahar, none on the Nasus.
That's right, those two crazy picks that we didn't think were going to do that much, did we? Or at least I didn't. I'm not going to rope you into my shit analysis. I really thought they were going to not do much that game, but they really, really came out with a really strong performance. So both are open, really good key point. But I like that they've taken the Sejuani with the Maokai actually being answered by Stormwolves and taking that away, because it's a champion you can effectively do exactly the same thing on. Still leaves up a really nice R1, R2 fork for the Stormwolves. They're actually going to opt for one of the most basic ones when Lulu, Zeri, Jinx is not something you want to opt for. You take something like the Xayah Rakan, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Really effective on the Rakan, I think, is any support in this meta. I mean, I got auto-filled one game, and people know me. I'm an all-in-one trick. And if I can pop off on Rakan 6K, anyone can. Such a strong champion this meta. Does leave open that counter. I mean, we've seen a lot in pro play, the Xayah and Rakan being answered with something like the Lulu or the Jinx. Interesting that Zeri's been taken away, so you'd imagine nothing else but the Jinx. Or do they take that prio pick on this blue side and go for that Nasus again? I mean, it worked, but it also didn't in some way, so I'd be really curious to see if they go for it here. The Volibear being hovered now, maybe the more likely choice. But no, it will end up being the Jinx, won't it? So our bot lane's pretty much decided for this game, and you imagine it'll be junglers for the opposite side. But who are you favouring so far? And if it is going to be that Vi answer, which team do you think is winning draft at this point?
I think I prefer the Stormwolves if it is the Vi. I think in general, the Xayah is much more safe and has a lot more tools for not dying than Jinx does. You do lose a bit of AoE damage, but this means I feel like it is much more able for Lockster to carry this game, almost, without heal if the same thing happens. But Volibear is interesting. I've just heard this champ's bad right now. I don't actually know. They do. I think being out of tower dive is interesting. I did kind of prefer the Vi to be able to just get on the immobile Jinx, just guaranteed point and click lock her down.
Yeah.
So it's just comfort. Ban though, this is a switch up.
I think so. Yeah, I like the Ornn being banned away because now that you've blinded, exactly right, you can play for the front to back by sort of banning away what would really work for their comp. So get rid of the Ornn, right? Because that way you're able to make sure and kind of guarantee for yourself that Jinx is going to have less peel in this game. Yes, Sejuani has already been picked, so you could argue that at that stage there already is a decent enough frontline for this Jinx to really make an effort in these team fights like we saw in the previous game. But sometimes Jinx isn't free hitting, doesn't actually mean the end of the world, does it? We saw that Loxer had that opportunity on this really hyper scale, hyper carry pick and wasn't able to do that much. So the ability to actually catch her out. And Volibear, I really like it because you mentioned tower dives. The other thing that Volibear can do is really disable himself out of CC and jump straight on to the backline. So in team fights where you're not really diving turrets or making any of these crazy extra plays, still works really nicely as a 5v5 champion. I think Vigi may fall into a similar pattern where the rest of his team will want to kite back and he'll kind of be left alone in these fights and may be countered. The issue I see with that particular playstyle in this game is now they've got a reset champion. So we saw Loxter in the previous game do really well with his resets, didn't we? And it was just a CC on the opposite side that shut him down. But with a slight lack of that outside of their front line, once they kind of pull the trigger, if this Jinx doesn't get blown up, then there's nothing else they can do. Pretty much Stormwolves are banking on their ability to one-shot this backline, because if they can't get that done, then it's a disaster when it comes to these 5v5 team fights, and Cavalry will be looking really, really sweet. But they do need to round off their comp somehow. So Jinx obviously taken up, so Envy, it's his choice to not have to blind. Wants to take the Vex as the counter pick into the Slumber. Don't think it's the strongest pick that exists in terms of countering the Lysandra. Not something like sort of an AD bruiser or something that can sort of pressure with wave clear early on in the stage of the game. But a decent pick. We've seen Envy play kind of well onto the Vex, and you'd imagine another frontline beefy boy. Cinder King seems really confident on these tanks, don't we? So Nasus won't be the option this game, I don't think. Or Aatrox taken away. It's going to be the Dr. Mindo. What do you think of that?
So Mundo, I think, is actually pretty good here. Especially assuming, I guess, seeing the Cho top, which seems not, we're not picking to Mundo or whatever. The biggest thing is that Mundo, I don't really think about as a tank, especially now like team comps. Like, you have a lot of health, but you don't have the CC, you don't have peel, and you're just trying to make space. But the enemy comp with this Lysandra, especially now with this Vi, with this Volibear, making space is just such a huge power play, I feel. They all want to dive you, but Xayah might struggle a bit to step forwards. Lysandra still has to get in on you. And I think I actually just like the Mundo, but we'll have to see. Feels like a very traditional front-to-back comp almost for the Cavalry here. But on the other side, we have this big dive comp from the Storm Wolves.
That's it. That's exactly right. It pretty much is just front to back and dive. That's what we're looking at here. Now, I have his preference front to back, and it's not really for a fair reason, but I think in Unsplat, it is a much easier playstyle to commit to. And that's because it's not so dependent on team play inherently, especially at a lower elo, because people aren't going to be coordinating their engaged efforts as sort of synchronized as you may see up in sort of different brackets. However, Storm Wolves are a team that I do believe on paper are very capable in handling a more difficult comp when it comes to their go button. And while yes, the idea of an engaged comp may be tricky 6k, the champions that they've picked aren't necessarily difficult to pull off. I mean, Vi's got her simple button. All you want to do is make sure that you get the, the cease and desist onto the Jinx, and it pretty much guarantees every other layer of CC, doesn't it, in being able to land onto this Jinx. So it's a matter of if Vi can get through towards Cavalry's AD carry before being blown up, guaranteeing the rest of his team to find that lockdown. But you're right. Mundo might not be a traditional tank in building resistances, but he's still going to be a very beefy boy. And when he stands in front of that engage and actually denies them the ability to enter that space, that's where the pick's going to be really crucial. And also his inherent desire to just go where he pleases, avoiding the CC. And there is plenty of crowd control on Stormwolf. So I like the answer from Mundo. I like what Cavalry have drafted, and I really like that they've actually leaned into what worked really well in their previous game, and that was playing for Collat, so playing for the hyperscale AD carry, and pretty much just out team fighting and out 5v5 in Stormwolves. They've built a comp that if they aren't able to do that, they're just going to crumble. But given their game one performance, I think they've really backed themselves and clearly are coming into confidence in this game too. What do you think in terms of predicting this game? How do you feel now that comps are fully listed out? The drafts are there for us to see. 6K, I'll start with you. Who's taking out this game too?
So I think Cavalry have momentum. I'm going to be a bit of surprise and lean towards them. I think their comp's easier to play, especially in this Iron to Plat environment. They have momentum, and it feels like they're much more comfortable. Their comp's much more similar to what they played last game than this other comp is.
I think so. I mean, I'd love to disagree with you because I think that makes it more fun on the cast. But I've got to be honest, I completely agree with you, man. I think Cavalry are coming in with that really important word that you used, momentum, right? A lot of momentum coming into this game too. Drafted a really easy comp to play for. Collat clearly had such a strong performance in the previous game. So putting him on the best AD carry in the entire game right now, it's a really understandable choice. So I'd like to see this Jinx pop off this game, but there's plenty of availability and agency for Stormwolf. So it's on them to make a comeback, bring us to a game 3. I don't know how I feel about it. I've got a mixed mind because I do have work tomorrow, 6K, but I'd love to see 3 games versus these teams who are really matching each other blow for blow. So only time will tell. We've got 45 seconds left of the draft. So guys, please get yourself a drink and a snack. This game could be it. The stream could be over after this. So you've got to make sure that you're here and present with us. 6K, it's been an amazing journey casting with you. I can't wait for us to jump onto the Rift. Going to take a short break, guys. When we get back, it will be game 2, MCOM Cavalry versus Stormwolves. Will we have 2 games? Will we make it to a set of 3? Let's find out only after this break. Welcome back, everyone, to the Game 2 series of this week 4 matchup of the LETG Iron to Plat Tournament Bracket Circuit Training Grounds. God, it's got so many names, and it bloody deserves it, 6K, because it's been a fantastical time so far. As we see, a little cheeky invade, not going to come out of much, are they? They're just going to ward both the bot side for Cavalry, and then red side will answer with their own ward for the Vi and probably ended up pathing back up topside. But yeah, excited to be on the Riftman once again. Curious things to sort of talk about as we jump through. First thing on my mind is that Mundo's actually opted for no flash, which is common, but I think really interesting in terms of how he wants to position in this fight, because there is a lot of danger if you overstep into the comp of Stormwolves, and not having flash might mean that he needs to play this early game just that little bit more cautiously, hey?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Mundo passive, I feel, helps a lot. That's probably why he feels like he can get away with not taking the flash here. Just being able to negate that first CC. But I do think it's a bit of a worry. I think Ghost is a much more aggressive. It's going to be good for chasing him down. And we saw the Ghost work out fairly decently after early game for the Nasus. So we will have to see. Our top lane, I just don't know how this matchup goes, I won't lie.
Yeah, no, it's a curious one. It's two tanks, basically. I mean, Volibear will win the damage output game early, kind of sort of before level 4. But the interesting thing about Volley is that it actually is forced into taking really short trades until it gets its full combo. So you can't really get the full amount of your DPS out until you have every single available ability to you. The other curious thing about this matchup, I think, for me, when I look at it, is that he's only really got one way to break that Mundo passive, and it's his most important ability. This is the classic bot and trade that we'll see right now. They want to really try and find the engage. The one thing that is really important in the Xayah, Rakan, Jinx, Lulu matchup is how important Rakan W is. If he's unable to find his knockup, they are guaranteed to lose the HP trade in the bot lane. So it's much more about pressuring with the ability and sort of setting up to make sure that Xayah can look versus actually landing it. But here they go.
We're going to keep more plays, but I think they might be stuck. Cat on steroids does have battle dancing. Will be fine. Munro will be spotting the war this time, going for the same 3 camp into gank play, but now they're being spotted, it's just so much harder. Gank shouldn't work, but Cat and Steroids is low. They might step up. No.
That's it. It's the classic Siske. It's like, it shouldn't work, but oh my god, is it about to? Like, you always get really scared as a caster when you sort of look at a jungle stance in that way. But you can see that it's just the same game plan coming out of last game. Munro really wants to put his foot to the pedal and really try and pressure this bot lane as hard as he can. I think, unfortunately for him, is that Colette and Desi didn't need it. They actually won the 2v2 anyway, meaning that they're never really going to step up. So, kind of, his Monroe's bot lane kind of playing too well to make that gank work. I think if they really wanted to play for that bot side, they actually need to allow themselves to be pushed in. However, Colette wants to guarantee himself the push, meaning that his jungler can't gank. First knock up to land, but when they've lost so much HP, what can you do, 6K? They're really just taking control of this lane, is the Jinx and Lulu, and really good to see that they're coming with so much momentum, like you mentioned, because Colette had a great Game 1 performance, and they're showing their dominance early right now.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, we see Munro get top scuttle, which looks like much slower clear, stopping 2 camps. So, might not even get punished much for that early gank attempt that didn't go out. I think it's really interesting. Other than that, mid lane feels like it's going a bit better than it was last game. It's hard to tell. The knockup does come through, but there's not going to be much to play. Actually, no, we're seeing a lot of a play here onto Desi. Desi's going to get ignited. He's forced to flash out and should survive, I think, in the end with that shield. And Colt's going to turn it around, but Ghost spent, Ignite spent, and they only get the flash out. It is a positive number summoner trade, but the flash, of course, the longest cooldown of them all. Yeah,
that's right. I think a bit of a split target situation coming out of Stormwolves right there. So Cat on Steroids wants to lock down the Jinx, but the only person really in rage of this Xayah route, which is so crucial in the 2v2, was the Lulu. So I'm not sure why Rakan wouldn't just go for the support. I mean, Xayah has every opportunity to actually just Q, auto, and then E back, right? Get the feathers to pull back, guarantee the route, and then every other bit of CC from Rakan would land, and then they would find the kill. It's interesting that they're not able to be synced up because they have taken very much the more aggressive summoner choice out of these 2 bot lanes, right? So Jinx, obviously, with the cleanse and the exhaust coming out of Lulu, want to play as defensively as possible. Makes sense given how much the win con for Stormwolves is shutting down this Jinx. But it's interesting that they're not able to actually play towards their win con in the Xayah Rakan, even though they've taken things like the Ghost and the Ignite. They actually need to find these kills, because later on, the Ghost and the Ignite aren't going to be nearly as significant as is the Cleanse disable for the Jinx, and of course the Exhaust to shut down any carry that decides to try and shut down Colette.
Yeah, I think the Exhaust Cleanse really good. Cleanse actually feels like a great game for it, because while you have this mix, you have some knockups, you also do have the hard CC. And so much of it was reliant on chaining it together that even one cleanse is actually really impactful. But we started to see the flash over the wall here from Munro, and we get the fear chain, and there the permafrost comes through. It's not first blood though. Karina will flash away there, and it's a flash for flash trade, but no, the shadow surge comes through and it gets the kill under the tower. First blood. Envious, not a great flash there, I feel. But
no,
they get
not
first blood,
ideal.
Bunny.
Yeah, he does. He does. He gets the kill. I mean, it's the classic case of the Lee syndrome, right? Where you do hit the Q, you know you're going to die if you go for it, but I hit it, guys. I've got to go in. Does secure himself first blood. So only because it was just a 1-for-1 means that it's a slightly positive trade over towards the sides of Cavalry. And we're just seeing, talk about momentum and confidence. I mean, plenty coming out of Cavalry's mid laner right then. Yeah, the flash wasn't great. Didn't need to expend that summoner. Thought he may be able to get out. Maybe didn't see the Vi actually hanging around there, able to use the Q to actually block him from being able to just walk straight out. If he was able to flash towards the bot side, he would have tanked one extra auto, maybe died to the Rakan who was moving up, but other than that...
Into Desi, but they do get the root, the root actually. Now Desi's just going to fall down and flash from the lock stick here, and Munro's here for the follow-up, but there's no flash and there's no ult on this Sejuani, so they might have to give it up. They will keep chasing, they're going to get knockouts, but they don't have enough damage. Society's doing so much damage. Permafrost comes through, and they get the kill with the E, but Cold's going to flash forwards, and that's one kill, so it's now 2-for-1. Should not be able to get the kill under cat on steroids here, but still a good play for the Stormwolves. A bit greedy there from the side of the Cavalry.
Yeah, they certainly were trying to make a play where there just wasn't. Mundo in trouble.
Yeah, I think he might be dead. We're going to see the Stormbringer coming through. There's the stuns coming through, and this CC chain keeps going. They're going to force out this maximum dosage. Is it enough? He barely lives this.
Oh no, Vi really needed just to flash for that extra auto before Mundo was able to get his HP regen back from actually hitting that briefcase. So, slight misplay coming out for the jungler from Stormwolves. Didn't really want to risk the play. I understand that maybe he might not be sure about his champion, his damage output that he has, but decently played from Syndicate. Pops the ult early, make sure that he is blocking at least one part of the CC combo from Vi and Volley with that passive that you mentioned earlier. So, keeps himself alive. Definitely can be punished now. No ultimate, no ghost. Definitely a bit of a scary position, but they did expend some really big summoners for Stormwolves as well. Cease and desist, and also the bring down the storm from Volibear. So plenty sort of resources used for not a kill. Where there were kills, though, were in the bot lane. I want to talk about Lockstar, who had a really, really clean mechanic sort of showcase when it came to locking down Desi once again on this pick. It's exactly what you want to see. We talked about an aggressive summoner choice needs to be match 6k with an aggressive playstyle, and so no fear of making sure that he tells chat that he knows what he's bloody doing on this Xayah. Finds himself the kill, sitting at 2-1 with 150 gold shutdown. A much better start for Stormwolves 80 carry than in our game 1.
Yeah, definitely, and honestly a much better start than it looked like they might be getting. They'll be able to turn that lead into the bot lane into this Drake, it looks like. Just no contest able to come through. Mundo not even on the right side of the map. And not even going to answer with Rift Herald? They might. But I think in general, this bot lane's going much better, which is what you expect, to be fair, from this matchup, right? You expect that the... Oh no! Super Mega Death Rocket gets the steal! And that's now not good. It's good jinx up. And top lane, actually, we're seeing Vigi here on top. Go in, go for this trade. But ult's not up for either of them, and so it's just a good health trade. Mundo will slowly regenerate this back, but...
Yeah.
Oh, actually goes really again, he goes to the flash, and that's a solo kill from Vigi.
Yeah, it's done. So really well played from the Volibear, but God, we got to talk about this Jinx for a second. I was going to cut you off, but you were speaking so eloquently, 6k, I couldn't, that the only thing they do have to steal this dragon is that super mega death rocket, but it's not so easy to just have the summoner. You've got to use it perfectly, and that's exactly what Kalat does. Takes the dragon. It's unfortunate for the Vi because his smite just doesn't deal as much as this Jinx ult does. So there's no real way for him to secure that outside of them positioning outside of the Drake. Unfortunately, Cat on steroids does get hit by the ult, meaning that the damage transfers over to the objective, and they take it away. Now, the other bit of CC we've mentioned a lot is this Sejuani. Can they get it? I
think Lissandra's going to self-ult here, and the buy's coming through. Karina, I don't think they're about to follow it up, and in fact, we're going to see the season desist come through onto Munro here from the buy, but I think this might be a bit greedy. Lissandra's going to keep playing, but in the end, no one gets any kills there in that 2-for-2. And 4 ult spots.
So unfortunately, Lissandra does have to self-ult, doesn't she? So they're really lacking more lockdown outside of just the Vi ult. The Q also misses as well, so you're losing another couple seconds that you're able to keep a carry in range of damage. So can't find it enough. Both of mid laners as well took TP, so there's not like there's an ignite to make things even spicier. So yeah, just a kind of a swing and a miss, isn't it? In the bot lane, like you mentioned, 4 ults used as well. So it's going to be a case of it, I think, in this game. Already we're seeing the pattern of wait until we have our ults, and then everyone just go ham. and then we miss, and then, okay, guys, chill, and then we just fire ults again. Because both teams are really ult-centric. They don't really want to fight unless they have those ultimate abilities. You don't have any bruisers in the top that are reliant on just their key sort of summoner spells. Kind of like the Jax, I'm thinking of, Fiora, where you're already a threat even without your ult. Every carry on every team right now is super reliant on having every cooldown up. So we're probably going to see a lot of downtime in this game, and then see some really, really big pop-off team fights when they're able to pull the trigger. But Munro playing as aggressive as ever before, right? We're never going to see him not ganking a lane. That's just his jungling style. The only thing I find curious about this game too is that the Lockster's actually playing really decently in this early game. He hasn't fallen prey to Collat just yet. He's secured priority in his lane. May be down just a couple CS, but with the kills on the plate surely to come with all of this prio that they are guaranteeing for themselves, looking really good for Stormwall's bot lane.
Play here, they get the lock up from Desi from the other side. Got here, but no, it's the quickness coming through, and they're all here. They're here first. Wild Growth isn't enough, but the Shadow Surge comes through and catches out everyone.
Oh, no.
Gonna feather storm onto everyone. Do we have the, the Lockster calls to this Vex, and they get the shutdown, but Envious not going to be able to turn it back. And in the end, it's a 2-for-1. And it looks like Way could be more, but it's a 5-for-4 as well. No, it's a 4 versus 4. In that bot lane goes the favor of the Stormwolves, and that's what they needed. That's how to use that priority. A bit of a misstep from Desi there, and gets punished.
Yeah, two really crucial things. The first thing is Collat actually whiffing his cleanse. So, and my man's thought that he could cleanse the Viol. You unfortunately can't. The other thing that happened wrong there was that Desi wasn't able to bring himself back into the fight. He didn't get chunked that hard. He was brought to about 50% HP. Stands in the lane brush just outside Krugs, and while Envious of Me is being collapsed on under his turret, Desi did have his cooldowns and the mana available to save him. Chooses not to though, probably just thought his mid laner was dead. So a kill at the expense of Stormwolves didn't actually need to occur, but you know, just due to misplay, they were able to capitalize and get themselves just that bit more of a juicier play. But I want to talk about Lockster again, unfortunately, because it was such a crucial performance coming out of him, making sure he was able to dodge that initial engage from the Vex with the Feather Storm, making sure he found the route onto Collat right after the cease and desist. Like, played it really, really well in terms of his positioning, did what he needed to do, then kited back once he knew that the fight was won. So Stormwolves come into this game too with a lot more sense of how they need to play as a team, and because of it, their Vi is now going to sit 3-0 with the biggest bounty in the game, looking really, really juiced at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Lockster did die, but it did force, of course, Envious to get out of position a bit, dying for it. Other than that, I think they do look a lot more clean. This comp feels... It's easy to play if you know how to play it almost, because you have these alt buttons, right. You're just pressing R. But it's the question was always, have they practiced this enough to know how to play it? And it looks like they have. And so Storm was in a much better position, I feel, just in terms of comfort.
Yeah, practice is a good point that you mentioned, because this team does scrim a lot. I know that much as a bit of sort of behind-the-scenes info. They are really keen to be matching as many Irons of Plat teams as they can, probably to practice picks like this, because, yeah, while mechanically they're not intensive, you do need to have a lot of synergy, and we've seen the main parts of that synergistic movement come from the bot lane of Stormwolves, but all across the map they're playing well, as they may want to pull the trigger again.
Actually, they do. They catch it out, but the stun comes through there. Munro's got to use the Glacial Prison, and maybe we turn it around though. They might have gone too far. Lockster here gets caught out. Now Collat's got this reset, but there's the buyout coming through. Shadow Surge gets flashed, but Collat's going to keep hitting. Super Mega Deathlock catches it out. It's a double kill for Collat on this Jinx, and that play getting great counter ganks all series from Munro. He's always there right as Hamyan is about to go for a play, and this fight's 3-1, but there's so many plays that have been turned around by this Sejuani just being there to stop everything, to stop the momentum.
That's right. That's exactly what he is. He's just in the face of Cavalry, isn't he? Oh, sorry, not in the face of Cavalry, in the face of the Stormwolves. Making sure that, yeah, while you can find that initial engage, go for it, buddy. I'm still a big problem that you've got to deal with. And that damage just wasn't expected from Lockstar. Doesn't expend his flash or anything to get himself out. Just ends up dying for it. And without that key damage member, yeah, they've got a lot of CC, but the damage really lacks when this Xayah does end up falling. So good priority targeting coming out of Cavalry guarantees them the fight. And God, it's just blow for blow. We thought that Stormwolves have had a much better early game than they did last game, but now I'm not so sure. I mean, the first two Drakes have been taken by Cavalry again. Munro prioritizing the bot side objectives far better than the Vi again. I mean, Cavalry, we may be seeing a similar storyline as to our game one, because while they faltered slightly in the 2v2, Collat's now at 3-1, the sole carry of this team looking really impactful. Vex clearly wants to move around the map. Yeah, we're not even going to go for it. We knew what happened last time, didn't we?
Yeah. And it's an Infernal Soul again.
Yeah.
So,
God, the
Also,
script
Cindy
is
King has had this
a bit
heart
obvious.
steal for over a minute and has 0 heart steal stacks. So, interesting.
Hard to get in that melee range, I guess,
it is.
with the volley
Feels a
bear
bit of
kind
an
of just
awkward
throwing
pick here.
cues.
Oh nope, there's the stash.
There you go.
Super
There's one, he must have heard
slide.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, he just needs to be relatively tanky, right? I guess my worry, and you make a really good point, is if he actually can't find these stacks. Oh, hold on.
Viddy's going for the all-in here with Stormbringer, but I think he's gone too far. Mundo, of course, with that ultimate maximum. Yeah, he just dies. That was so greedy there. It's so much health down. And the Mundo instant health as well means that you just lose that. And Hamyan, now that your jungle's on that side of the map, so your bot lane of the other side gets to play aggressively. They looks like they got to do tower damage. And so now it's just a mess all over the map because Vici has gone a bit too far, gotten a bit too confident.
Yeah, disaster. Actually, you don't often think that just a solo kill top matters that much, but in the terms of this game, hold on.
Here, I think actually no.
Oh.
Growth there. Heal
Wow.
saves it.
I didn't see that engage. I mean, just Cat on steroids. Well, no, sorry, not Cat on steroids. My Karina in the bot lane, finding his engage onto the Jinx was really, really impactful there. Almost burning some really crucial sums.
Kill if it altered.
Yeah, he just didn't think that he would find the damage that he did. But it was a really nicely timed engage as well, wasn't it? Because the minion wave had just died. So being able to clear it with Lissandra's AoE guarantees that extra auto, does pull out the overgrowth and the exhaust coming out from Lulu. But this is what I mean. When you pair this bot lane with the exhaust as well coming out from Lulu, there are so many tools that means Kalat gets to be a bit greedy. He needs to actually keep on to these summoners because without them, a flashless Jinx into Vi, Lissandra, Rakan, I mean, it's going to be impossible to position in that fight. So the fact that he gets away with not having to use them is really huge for the side of Cavalry. But yeah, back to that top lane play. Vici dying there is so impactful because this Mundo just can't get big. If this Mundo is huge in this game, it is just that much more difficult to actually play if you're Stormwolves because it's another member to stand in the way of this Jinx, and that is the sole carry you need to shut down. So need to really make sure that they plug the holes in top lane and that Vici doesn't have a performance like that again, because if there's another solo kill on the cards and this Mundo gets reasonably fed, it's going to be really, really hard to actually play through where they need to play through.
Shadow Surge comes through into the Everfrost, but Dash Ray means nothing happens. I think.
Yeah. I think that's right.
The end, Kite does have Gale Force, not the usual Kraken Slayer you see in the Jinx. Loses a bunch of damage, but gains a bunch of mobility here, and I think that's almost certainly worth it this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see because Jinx with Kraken is just the thing we're so used to seeing, right? That's the one that is outputting the most DPS. But if you're 3-1 and you're feeling confident enough that you're going to get yourself some even more kills, I think Gale Force is totally fine. It's yet another way to get out of the crucial engage from Stormwolf. So I think decent itemization coming out of Colette. You'd hope for something like the IE to come after to really make sure you're upping your DPS just due to the lack of a Kraken Slayer. See if he has the gold for it now. Nah, just under. So we'll have to wait a little bit more for that particular item spike. As Zaya incredibly close to hers with the Navori too. So pretty even, both 80 carries in terms of actually finding that 2-item spike. Obviously with that recent 80 carry patch, that is when 80 carries actually spike. Now, not the 3 items, it is at the 2. So far though, Herald's going to be dropped though in the mid lane. We'll hopefully secure some priority for this third objective for Stormwolves because God, if you repeat the script from game 1 and you give them soul point this early in the game, it's just going to be really, really hard to put yourselves yet another sort of time crunch in this game. You don't want to force yourself team fights if you're Stormwolf 6k. You want to find the engage when the opportunity opens up. But Cavalry have just got their foot on the pedal, don't they? They don't want to allow Stormwolves to think. They want to say, hey, we're going for this dragon. We're doing it now. You better meet us there or be a square.
Yeah, and last game it felt like, of course, the Souls, like it's fine. Stormwolves outscale, they have a teleport advantage, and they can side lane better.
Yeah.
This game, they have none of those things. So you just can't, but actually they might be caught out here. Hamyan's gonna find this Jinx, gonna find Con, then it's gonna completely boom it. But the Wild Growth catches them all, and there's the Gale Force being held for so long. And now Cinder King might have found the backline, but the quickness comes through, it does catch the Jinx, and now Colin is almost certainly just dead. But there we go, the backline, Cinder King's doing damage, is it enough? No, they can't even get at the Lissandra, actually, it looks like. And it's gonna be just a 4-0, I think, in the end, for the side of the Stormwolves. And that's a huge fight win that stops Soul Point, and that completely shifts the momentum of this game.
Damn, I really thought Cavalry had that team fight due to a really crucial, and I don't compliment it enough, the Lulu, and nor should I, because Lulu is the steal! Wow. Well, that changes things 6k, doesn't it?
Everything. I feel like Baron, though.
tried.
They're just gonna go for Baron. Can they get there in time?
They might. Do they have the damage? That would be my crucial moment. It is Lockstar healthy enough to actually DPS this Baron. They want to look for it. I mean, timers aren't that long, 6k, 20 seconds. I mean, Sejuani's not going to be up for 10, but do they have enough to actually continue to try and find the fight afterwards? They may lose the Baron, but they might lose a couple members for it. Let's see what they do with their cavalry.
Oh, here, it's 5v2 though, it looks like. Shadow Surge will come through. We're going to go in and we might get brewed. Envious is going to trap. No, there's so much damage coming out of this Vex. But Collat yet again just going to go and get taken down. And this time, they get 2 kills. They should be able to finish off the Baron here. And with no Super Mega Death Rocket threat this time, 2 more kills over the Stormwolves and the Baron. And Desi's stepped too far forward, so it's going to be a 3rd more kill over. This is a disaster for the Cavalry. 6,000 gold now the lead for the Stormwolves, and they have a Baron.
It's terrible, isn't it? Because it really is just back-to-back team fight losses. That needed to work for Cavalry. I mean, I was excited in the cast, but I don't think it's a play you necessarily needed to do, right? If you give a Baron at 20 minutes, they're not going to end off it. You simply can't. Like, it's mathematically impossible unless they pull out some LPL team fight and siege down with the Baron minions through one lane. But I doubt that's going to happen. So you shouldn't be that fearful of Baron being taken over. Just admit you lost, that you lost at the Dragon fight. And that Dragon fight, let's talk about it before we unpack there, because really, I hate to flame, but that was just an int from Cavalry up in the top side. Not much else to it. I mean, Vex does land her ultimate, but everyone else kind of just ran in their faces, expecting not to just get jumped on. They get jumped on and they die. But that bot lane fight, God, it looked good for Cavalry, didn't it, 6k? It really looked like through the Lulu polymorph and the peel they were able to find for Collat that team fight might work out. But as they sent their members to the top side, Stormwolves came in with a plan for that bot fight, and that was to just use everything on the Jinx. And even through cleanse, they found that she just died anyway. Speaking of dying,
might be in trouble here, yeah. Seeing by all these resources being used, he's going to get rooted down. Just doesn't have the damage, shouldn't have the healing, at least gets knocked up, and no hearts fuel stacks in there and didn't even come out of it. From the bot side, Karina gets caught out here, so it's a 1-for-1. And I don't know if they can tower. But yeah, I guess that bot side fight, the other thing I took away from it was that in all their damage, all these things getting Collat, they have a bunch of AoE, they have like Lysandra W, Lysandra Q, and Xayah still free firing, that they were taking down the rest of the members of the Cavalry while getting onto Collat. And so even if Collat does survive, I don't think it's enough to win the fight.
That's it. It's really crucial, right, to mention that it's not just single target. So it's not like you're expending every single resource onto one carry and then getting ran over by everyone else. I guess it doesn't really matter when most of your comp isn't high DPS outside of Jinx. That's kind of it, right? So you're able to spend all your resources anyway, but it's crucial for the reason why that fight was a complete stomp is due to the fact that it is AoE, really decent point. So they were able to find the AoE CC. They were able to find Lockstar to get himself to free hit. 7-3-5 on their Xayah. Stellar performance. 40 CS lead, I mean, completely secured priority, and he looked like it, didn't he, from the way he was playing this 2v2 early, that he felt confident being able to pull out these team fights, and he has. So Stormwolves completely in the driver's seat here. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I hate to cast a curse. I find it hard to see them actually losing this game from here. 2 back-to-back team fights plus a Baron. I mean, what a way to throw a potential game, which is what Cavalry's actually done. And there's so much pressure on the map. Collat forced to burn his Gale Force just at the presence of Stormwolves in the mid lane. You can tell that Cavalry is shaking in their boots right now, and it's up to Stormwolves to keep the gas on the pedal.
Yeah, it looks like Cavalry, hopefully, Mundo doesn't get caught out here, are just trying to recollect, play safe before this soul fight. If they can get the soul, there's always a way back into this game. An objective bounty, Infernal Soul, just so much of it. But they have to get there. They have to somehow get it. They can get another steal. They can win a fight. They've stolen more than half their Drakes this game, by the way.
They certainly have. I mean, my one worry for this Dragon is it's got to be Jinx Rocket and nothing else. I doubt that with all of the vision control that Cat on Steroids is able to set up alongside his jungle with the 2 pink wards purchased from his previous deployment means that they can actually get to Dragon. Like, they're going to try and clear it now, but you can't really get as far as the Raptor camp because look at where this Vi's sitting. Wait to catch out anyone. Collat may be the first victim, but ooh, very, very careful. So there's just too much security around this bot side map for the Stormwolves, meaning they will collect this first Dragon. The only thing that I kind of hate about doing this and spending so much time sitting there is you're not pressuring any other side of the map, really. Like, yeah, you get 1 Dragon, but is it worth delaying the game for 1 Infernal Drake? I feel like we can be playing more aggressive with the vision that we've got. Maybe a case of Cavalry playing safe, but an overstep can always happen, and we'll have to see 6k if it goes as Cavalry want to try and secure some of this vision back for themselves.
We're seeing this positioning though around this. They're getting closer to the Dragon.
All 5 members are here.
Every step, the Stormwind, every step, the Cavalry take closer to their Dragon, I guess. is a step away from their towers, is a step away from the safety of their base. And we're seeing 4 people here. They've set the locks to try and solo this Drake. And then we've got top here going to try and block this call-up rocket. Are we going to go for it? Super Mega Death Rocket,
really
not in time to catch that Karina though. And Karina might be low, but a 4-man quickness and the Lox is doing so much damage. This is the engage comp doing exactly what it needed to. Collette's going to try and do things, but it's not enough. Lissandra has the stopwatch and the Gale Force comes through. It's locked down. On the back end, the Vex catches 1, but in the end, they've got 4 kills. They should get a 5th here, and they got the Drake. This might just be it for the side of the Storm Wolves. They should just be able to snowball off of this. If they can't end here, they get a huge advantage, even more than they already had. At least an inhibitor goes down.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Cavalry just not respecting, not able to just cut their losses and go for the side waves, get themselves some sort of a lead. And you don't see this often in 9 to Plat, is the ability to cut your loss and just play for the gold that is actually available to you. Cavalry weren't able to read that dragon was gone. Before Stormwolves had even taken it, there is zero way to contest that unless Stormwolves literally all DC at the exact same time. Like, it's just not realistic. So you should be going top, you should be going mid to try and get yourself some sort of revenue. Instead, they try and flip the game on its head. And unfortunately, it just flips onto the right side of the coin for Stormwolves, who are now at even a grosser lead, just about 11k. I mean, it's gross 6k. There's almost no way that Stormwolves can falter with this lead. You'd imagine that even with Jinx, if she purchases something like a stopwatch or something, may avoid that initial engage, but because they're so fed, it means they can actually buy time even if Jinx does end up going a bit more utility to try and keep herself alive. There's not enough damage for Cavalry, and there is just too much agency on the carries of Stormwolves, especially on this Vi, and especially on Lockster on this Zyre. And wow, isn't he fed? I mean, four items, almost 100 CS. I mean, what can't the man do in this game too?
Yeah, it feels like at this point, actually, I think Lockster is so fed that Stormwolves don't even have to play kill the Jinx. They can just play protect the Zyre and win these fights.
Exactly.
They're so far ahead. And that completely screws everything up for the side of the Cavalry, because their comp isn't built to dive this Zyre, isn't built. How do you dive a Zyre into this comp? Because all those offensive tools, all those dive tools can be used defensively. Same cases, Vi can knock people up, she can root them, and you just don't have the tools to kill this Zyre, who's 10-3. She's so far ahead of the pace of the rest of the game. They're just going to start Baron. I just think this is such a good situation.
Yeah, it's a great situation for Stormwolves. Again, they're moving topside as if they want to contest, but there's just no option for it, really. I mean, yeah, Super Mega Death Rocket's going to hit, but when it happens once in a game, usually the enemy team is able to react and make sure that it never happens again. And that's
going for another fight here. They're engaged on, and
just
oh god,
Munro
just gets blown up out of nowhere. Colat's dead, everyone's dead here. Cinder King might have found cannon stones. No, they haven't. And I think that's a triple kill. Yes, a triple kill for the Zyre. Hamilton find Death's and they should be able to end the game of this. We're going to a game 3. We have a series on our hands.
Yeah, series on our hands, 6k. Get pumped, get excited, get the popcorn out if you mayhem, because Stormwolves really bringing this game to a head. And it came off those 2 really crucial team fights that unfortunately were back-to-back for the side of Cavalry. So back to the drawing board for them as Stormwolves come out with a stellar individual performance coming out of Lockster. But you've got to give credit to the team who executed their comp beautifully. Not easy to pull off dive at Iron to Plat, but they definitely punished Cavalry, who maybe came into the drafting phase a little bit too cocky.
Yeah.
Alright, so there you go, 6k. We're at 3 games. A 3-game set. I always get so excited when I cast, because I feel like 2 games is so quick, you know? It's like you're just getting into it, you're just learning about the teams, and then it's like, oh, bye, guys. But now we get 3 games. How exciting, how keen are you for this?
I don't think I've gotten to post-stream a 3-gamer yet. I thought I'd have one last week. A team had a 7,000 gold lead in game 2, and they'd lost game 1.
Oh my god,
and then there was a 7,000 gold comeback, which is hype in its own, but yeah.
In a different way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a different way is that hype. Really interesting. Anyway, let's break down that game just briefly. What went wrong for Cavalry, 6k?
I think that obviously that Drake fight, I think just some really good dive here coming out from the side of the Stormwolves, and they weren't really peeling. This is where the Mundo can struggle. You don't have the CC, you're not a traditional tank to peel, and they just couldn't stop Colite getting caught out. We would see so many abilities thrown, get out, and there'd just always be one left. Yeah. And it was just a bit of a messy team fight. They weren't really playing front to back almost, it felt like at times, just because of how Stormwolves could mess every fight up.
Yeah, I mean, talk about, like, momentum being shifted, right? We talked about how momentum was absolutely on the side of Cavalry coming off that Game 1 performance, but there's such a thing as too much momentum, isn't there? Coming in a little bit too cocky, not really respecting your opponents, and Stormwolves capitalized completely and were able to come out with a really a very clutch comeback in this game too. Not close at all. They absolutely stomped them. Let's give credit where credit's due. Loxter did really, really well. So we're going to go for a quick break right now because we are getting ready to jump into our third game. Hopefully get to have a bit of a chat before we jump straight into draft. But it'll be interesting. Both teams need to address the drawing boards now because we're at game 3, aren't we, 6K? So things didn't work in game 1 for one team, and then on the opposite end, it didn't work in game 2. So there's things to be adjusted for both sides. Momentum, as we talked about, is a big key factor, but can there be such a thing as too much confidence? There's only one way to find out as we head to a short break, and when we're back, 6K will join me for our Ripper Banger Game 3, MCOM Cavalry versus Stormwolves. Who's going to win, guys? Let's find out after this.